Members of the Council, officers of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for His Worship, the Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth, Councillor Jeff Clark, JP.
Could I just, on this occasion, ask everyone to remain standing, please? The reason for that is, unfortunately, it's not in the agenda because it was late news arriving to us. However, we sadly lost Councillor Mick Jones, or former Councillor Mick Jones, who served this council for over 23 years. Both on as a Borough Councillor and on the County Council, and he's also a former Mayor. So I would call for a minute's silence, please, if you could do that. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda this evening is to say thank you, and it's nice to see so many of you here this evening to our agenda for the annual meeting of the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, the 17th of May 2023. We move on to the evacuation procedures. There is no fire drill expected this evening, but if the alarm does sound, then please leave via the nearest exits and where you came in, and gather outside Lloyds Bank, which is across the street. Moving on to item 2, it's the election of chair. Can I ask for nominations for the office of chairman of the council to be styled mayor for the ensuing municipal year? Councillor Evans.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Before I set out my nomination this evening, I'd like to place on record my thanks and appreciation to you and the outgoing Lady Mayoress Sarah for your charitable endeavours for the air ambulance service over the last year. I wish you all the very best in whatever your plans are as you return to the backbenches. I beg to move that Councillor Martin Walsh become the Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth for the forthcoming municipal year. I move the proposal in line with the long-standing traditions of this council as the ward partner of the nominee. The Slough ward, which I have been honoured to represent alongside Councillor Walsh since 2018, has a long-established track record of submitting its councillors to serve the borough in the mayoralty. And on this day, I pay tribute to some of those predecessors, including former Councillor Tony Lloyd, who served in the mayoralty between 1992 and 1993. Now, it would be fair to say that Councillor Walsh only got elected to this council at the 11th hour. Just 2 days before nomination papers were due in, I was contacted by someone who I won't name, to inform me that the Conservative candidate for the Slough ward had pulled out. I panicked, hyperventilated, and if members think that my face is red now, it was basically like a tomato after that telephone call. I visited the property of Councillor Brown and his wife, the mighty Anne Brown, who you never get on the wrong side of, to vent my anger. And it was Anne Brown who said, "Fear not," 2 words, Martin Walsh. And so it is that we are here today. It is, of course, tradition that the proposer outlines to Council why it is that the member in question should be submitted to Council as the nominee for Mayor. I can propose Councillor Walsh this evening without any hesitation, but with conviction, confidence and certainty. I hope Council will allow me to outline why it is that Councillor Walsh is a worthy candidate for the title and responsibility, given his many decades of committed public service across Nuneaton, Bedworth and Bulkington. Meetings in this council can, on occasions at best, be described as heated. And as you will know, Mr Mayor, the position does require an individual who can impartially and respectfully chair these meetings to ensure that all sides of the chamber, regardless of their political affiliation, can do their jobs and represent the residents that elected them to this place. For several decades, Councillor Walsh served as a chair of governors in several schools across Bedworth, including Raceleys and Ash Green. From sessions with local authority inspectors to heated meetings with hundreds of parents, over time, Councillor Walsh acquired the skills necessary to deliver for pupils and teachers, whilst bringing all sides of the debate along the way. Handling a room of 34 heated councillors won't be any problem for Councillor Walsh, I am sure. Councillor Walsh has been a staunch supporter of people in the borough, actively volunteering his expertise and time to the scouting movement in Bedworth for many decades. Indeed, towards the end of his scouting career, Councillor Walsh performed the duties of Group Scout Leader at 4th Bedworth Scouts, which is now based at the Collycroft Methodist Church on Orchard Street. Members, I apologise in advance for my satire. I know that many scouting leaders across our borough are genuine, well-mannered people. They can, however, also spend a lot of their time in tents. And given the experience of Councillor Walsh has in camping and erecting tents, I am in no doubt that he will be able to knock members down a peg or two in future heated debates. I am reliably informed that Councillor Walsh has an encyclopedic knowledge of the engineering history of cars. I dare say that knowledge probably won't be of much use now that the Mayor no longer has a civic car. However, Councillor Walsh is something of a maverick hoarder, which a number of his family members found out when recently moving house. I'm told that Councillor Walsh found in his garage an orange Volkswagen Beetle that hadn't been seen in decades, and apparently there was enough camping equipment on hand to support an expeditionary force going to Mount Everest. The nomination of Councillor Walsh this evening will be one for the history books. He will be the first Conservative councillor from Bedworth to become the mayor of this borough. And on the subject of politics in Bedworth, not only has Councillor Walsh been a member of the Bedworth Conservative branch for many years, a lot longer than, I think, Councillor Brown, but he's also held in high regard by many, including our former Member of Parliament, Dan Biles. And some people may ask why that is. And for those who know Councillor Walsh, they will know that he has an incredibly good analytical eye and doesn't take anyone for hostage if they get it wrong. And I've learnt that from personal experience. And it's for that reason why the Conservative Party always puts Councillor Walsh at the front of any election count. Some people may remember the famous election count that took place in the North Warwickshire and Bedworth constituency in 2010, where the Conservatives gained the constituency for the first time in 1987 with a majority of just 54 votes. And it was Councillor Walsh who, 13 years ago, at the Carrington Coleshill Leisure Centre, I'm told, who managed to point out some of the missing bundles, which inevitably put Dan Biles ahead by just 54 votes. every mayor also needs a solid mayoress to support their activities. And I've known Councillor Walsh's wife, Sandra, for some time. She has a face in Bedworth that everyone recognises, and for the right reasons. Having worked as a childminder in Bedworth and regularly supporting parents with children at Race Lees, which is located in Councillor Walsh and I's ward. I know Sandra will relish to the task of supporting Councillor Walsh in his charitable endeavours over the next year. In addition, I'm in no doubt that this evening's vote for Councillor Walsh will give Sandra a much-needed excuse to negotiate a new wardrobe for the next year. In conclusion, I move that Councillor Walsh be invited to accept the office of Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth for the ensuing municipal year, and I hope that Council will unanimously approve my recommendation this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Does that receive a seconder? Councillor Damon Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I stand here tonight privileged to be able to second the nomination of Councillor Martin Walsh as Mayor for the forthcoming municipal year. I'd like to thank Councillor Evans for his nomination speech, taking as it did most of the things I was about to say now. So I'll have to make this up en route, but here we go. It's absolutely fantastic. I thought we were going to have to live stream this event tonight to Canada, but we don't actually have to, because it's fantastic to see. We have some visitors from there tonight in the audience, which is brilliant news. I've known Councillor Walsh, Martin, for more than 30 years, back to when my wife and I moved on to what was then the newly built Saxon Head Estate in Bedworth. They were neighbours, and over the years we became firm family friends, and it's absolutely fantastic to see so many of his family here tonight. Martin moved to Bedworth. He's an incomer like myself, really, after marrying his wife, Sandra, who he met ballroom dancing. Now, I've probably alluded to this in the past, but Martin and Sandra were top-level, national quality ballroom dancers. They even appeared on Come Dancing, which to those too young to remember was the precursor of Strictly. It had the best dancers in the country and judges who actually knew what they were talking about. Surprise, surprise. So you know, he's got it on record that he's somebody who can attain and do things properly. We've heard he's an engineer by training and trade, and in engineering, something's right or it's not. We've heard how analytical he is, and he's really good at working out practical solutions. We've heard he's got a keen sense of fairness, and I'm sure that will come to the fore. And he's also impartial. I'm sure if at the count in 2010 the votes piles had been the other way, he would have raised the issue just the same. He's that type of person. He's incredibly family orientated. Everything he does really revolves around his family or public service. So he's got a great history of doing that. He's very public spirited. He's very even-tempered, and I think these are qualities that a mayor requires in abundance. I'm proud to stand here tonight and second this nomination, both as a fellow councillor, but also as his friend. And finally, for anybody wishing to see footage of Martin and Sandra in action on Come Dancing many years ago, see the lady in the coral dress afterwards, and for a small donation to the mayor's charity, whatever that turns out to be, I'm sure she can oblige. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on finishing your term. I'd like to put forward Councillor Emma Shires for the position of Mayor. She's been, since being elected, she's been an excellent councillor and representative for Camp Hill. She's got 2 young children, always takes time to listen to people, and she's also a member of the Camp Hill Community Association. She takes every time that she can to meet people, meet the police, take estate walk-arounds, and represent the people of not only Camp Hill but of the borough. And for this reason, I think she would make an excellent representative of Mayor and for this borough of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. So I'll represent Councillor Emma Shires, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Does that receive a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. If you're going to say if you want to remain seated, I understand.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to second that nomination.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? That being the case, on this occasion, we go straight to a vote. Those receiving the majority vote are duly declared. So, all those in favour, first of all, all those in favour of Councillor Martin Walsh, please show. All those in favour of Councillor Shires, please show. I'm ending as I started with this microphone. It's been my bane of my life this year. I therefore am pleased to declare that Councillor Martin Walsh is duly elected Chairman of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council to be styled Mayor for the ensuing municipal year.
Would you like to be seated again? Thank you.
Please be upstanding for Councillor Martin Walsh.
Thank you. You will be seated.
Councillor Walsh, are you willing to sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office?
I, Martin John Walsh, having been elected the officer of Mayor of Nuneaton Bedworth Council, declare that I am the officer upon myself and the duties and fulfil the duties in accordance with the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you. Distinguished guests, fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you into this chamber tonight on the start of my mayoral year. I do not originate from Bedworth, as I guess you can tell, but my wife Sandra does, and so do our sons and 3 of our grandchildren. It pleases me to say that all 3 of my sons and their wives are here tonight, including my son Liam, his wife and their daughter, who to my great surprise have flown in from Canada, secretly, as arranged by my wife, to be here to support me. Having lived in Bedworth since 1985 and raised our family there, I can say now that I consider myself to be from Bedworth. Up until I was asked to stand as a local councillor, I had not given it any thought. If you had said to me 3 years ago that I would be sitting in this chair tonight, I would have never have believed you. It makes me even more proud to be the first Bedworth Conservative councillor to become mayor of this borough. Sandra and I have enjoyed a year as deputy mayor and mayoress, having attended numerous events, including Bun Day at Bedworth Almshouses, garden fetes, school events, the Queen's Jubilee events, including lighting the torch in Bedworth, and more recently, the coronation parties for King Charles III. We are now looking forward to the coming year as Mayor and Mayoress, meeting more of the local residents, the many voluntary organisations that do such wonderful work in our community, and businesses in our great borough, and of course, helping to raise well-needed funds for our chosen charities. My wife, Sandra, and I will strive to serve and represent this borough with pride and the dignity as befits the role of Mayor and Mayoress. Before I finish, I must firstly thank my wife, Sandra, for her continuous support. They say that behind every successful man stands a good woman. I'm not quite sure about the successful man bit, but I'm sure about the good woman in my case. I'd also like to thank Councillor Jeff Clark as the retiring Mayor of the last year for his guidance and such, and the splendid work he has done in representing this borough, together with his daughter Sarah as his Mayoress, and for the great achievements they have made in their fundraising for the charity. I would like to thank my fellow councillors for their support, in particular Councillor Carl Evans and Councillor Damon Brown for proposing and seconding me for Mayor. Dave Leach for his continual support, even though he's retired. And of course, the ladies of the Civic Support Team who do an amazing job. I thank you. We now continue with a vote of thanks, and I ask the Leader of the Council to propose a vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And before I move the actual vote of thanks, can I just congratulate you on your successful election to the office of Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth. And I know that together with your good lady wife, you will be exemplary ambassadors for our great borough. And I know, having spoken to both of you over the past week or so, how much you are looking forward to serving our communities, and I am sure that you will do a fantastic job, and I look forward to supporting whichever charity you happen to have chosen, and I wish you every success with raising plenty of money. No doubt you'll be starting tonight, Mr Mayor, trying to encourage everyone to depart with their hard-earned cash. But, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that the best thanks of this council be tendered to Councillor Clark and Mrs Sarah Etienne for the able and courteous manner in which they have fulfilled the duties of Mayor and Mayoress during the past municipal year. Councillor Clark has been a friend of mine for almost 20 years, and it was a great privilege to me 12 months ago to move that he be the Mayor of this borough. When I did so, I never believed, and I certainly know that Councillor Clark never believed, that it would be such an eventful year. No one could have foreseen back in May last year that we would have seen not only the Platinum Jubilee of Her late Majesty the Queen, but also the demise, the sad passing of Her Majesty, the accession of King Charles III, and then indeed, just at the very last moment of his mayoralty, the coronation. It has been a tremendously busy year for Councillor Clark, and I know how much enthusiasm and gusto, it has to be said, he has thrown into his mayor's charity, the Air Ambulance, together with the fantastic support team that he has had behind him. And also, Mr Mayor, it cannot be neglected for his mayoress, because without his mayoress, there would have been no mayor's charity for this year. As a serving police officer, she has seen firsthand the great urgent need that the Air Ambulance provides to many people across not only Warwickshire, but far and beyond. And I'm sure that former Mr Mayor, will highlight the exact costs of what that is and how many trips he will have been able to sponsor with his mayoral year, and still coming in, Mr Mayor. I also have to say that it was an unusual year for myself as leader of the council, in that every so often I would have a phone call from Councillor Clark saying, the mayoress is sadly unavailable, she's working, completely understand that, are you able to stand in? And the mayoral Mondeo, as it has been christened, certainly by members on this side of the chamber, has seen a large number of miles added to it than was expected for the past 12 months, but I can assure members and members of the public that not one of those miles has gone on the public purse, Mr Mayor. It was all done to raise charitable funds and to support the great causes throughout this borough. So, in conclusion, Mr Mayor, I would hope that everyone would support the vote of thanks for Councillor Clark and Mrs Etienne, because they have had and done a sterling year, and I don't think anyone could have done better than them in this year. And I know it was certainly an emotional roller coaster for Councillor Clark. He now has a well-earned rest, but I'm sure he'll be back on the bike anytime soon and getting stuck into the challenges of the borough. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Croft.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'd also like to congratulate you on your election to the high office. I'm sure that you and Sandra will make us very proud over the course of your year. But before your year gets underway properly, I would like to echo the words of Councillor Wilson and thank formally Councillor Clark for his service as Mayor. And I think, Mr Mayor, that we can all agree that it has been an historic mayoralty in the history of our borough. He has been the Jubilee Mayor, the Accession Mayor and the Coronation Mayor. And he's also been the Mayor during the COVID memorial event. And I believe that he is the first Mayor, Mr Mayor, to be accused of presiding over a satanic ritual in the history of our borough. But in my experience, Mr Mayor, he's always willing to put his hand in his pocket for spiritual and Christian causes. So we can confirm this is not true. But it isn't just about the history or the events, Mr Mayor. It is about the man or woman, the Mayor in question. And the role of the Mayor is to make sure that to provide colour and ceremony in our civic life and to maintain our traditions and to make sure that all of the community are included, or as many as possible, in our historic traditions in this borough. And Councillor Clark has certainly done that. And he showed that during the Jubilee and during the coronation when he toured. I'd lost count of how many street parties. I was accompanying him, making sure that the chains didn't get lost. And Mr Mayor, the public were always happy to see him, and he made a real effort to make sure that everybody was included. I think if someone were to care to trawl social media, there must be hundreds of pictures of people posing photos with him. And he presided over the memorial for Her late Majesty the Queen with great dignity, reading the proclamation. And he has been a tireless fundraiser for the Air Ambulance charity. And when Jeff Clark tries to flog you raffle tickets, Mr Mayor, you buy those raffle tickets, believe me. So, Mr Mayor, I think it is no exaggeration to say, with no diminishment to any of the other mayors, former mayors who are here, that he has been one of the very great mayors in the history of this borough. And I hope that would receive unanimous agreement. So I would like to echo the words, formally thanking Councillor Jeff Clark, his consort Sarah, and his family as well, because Mark and the grandchildren did a great deal of work, which they didn't have to do. I would like to, Councillor Wilson has somewhat undersold his role over the course of the past 12 months, because as members will remember, one of the first things we actually ever did was abolish the mayoral car, and Councillor Clark was not driving himself to many of these events, and Councillor Wilson kindly volunteered, in quote marks, at his own expense. So if people have seen the mayoral Mondeo whizzing about the borough with the plates on it, that's what it's been for. And I'm afraid, Mr Mayor, the chauffeur service does not come with the office. So you will have to find your own car. But Mr Mayor, Councillor Clark and his family have acted in a real spirit of service over this civic year. It has been a historic moment in the life of our borough. They have risen magnificently to the moment. They have my thanks, and I hope they would have the unanimous thanks of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Croft. At this moment, I would like to take a vote of thanks from the members. All in favour? I think we can call that unanimous. I thank you. Oh, thank you. Now, presentation of the badges to the outgoing Mayor and Mayoress. Thank you. Councillor Clark, would you like to make a response?
Mr Mayor, may I offer you my congratulations on becoming the Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough this year. I wish you a happy and I'm sure enjoyable year with your wife Sandra. I'm sure you'll be excellent ambassadors across the borough, and I hope you have an enjoyable time. I think, to be honest with you, we've got the same speech writers tonight, I'm sorry to say. I've written this myself, by the way. First of all, I would like to thank you, Martin, as my deputy, and Sandra, for the support that you've given me and the Mayoress during the Mayoress during the previous year. You've both been excellent ambassadors, as I say, attended numerous events, some of which you've detailed, where we've been double booked or whatever, and I really appreciate that support that you've given us during the year. At the start of the year, I launched my mayoral charity, which was, or is, Warwickshire and Northamptonshire Air Ambulance Services. Obviously, that is a charity that is desperately needed across our borough, and many of you will have seen that most days in the skies above Nuneaton and Bedworth. Indeed, they are usually called out at 6 or 7 times per year, and every time they go up, it's £1,700 per flight. So you will appreciate the extent and the costs that involves. It has been a wonderful year, with many events being held, starting, as you mentioned, the Sanctuary, the event in Bedworth, which many thousands, I think approaching 17,000 people took part in. Remembering the loved ones who had found it to be helpful as we came out of the COVID lockdown. One of the points that was said, that it gave some sense of, I won't say completeness, but sense of closure to that period of our lives where we had experienced a really sad time, and particularly for some people in many cases where they'd lost loved ones. However, it was quickly followed by a Freedom of the Borough parade, which was far more uplifting, and people from across the borough came into Nuneaton to watch the regiments from Bramcote Barracks doing their Freedom of the Borough through the town, and myself and the Mayoress were pleased to be able to actually inspect the soldiers who stood there proudly, and it was one of their first outings as a group of soldiers after COVID, and they performed absolutely excellently, can I say. Moving on, we followed we followed with various celebrations in relation to Her Majesty's 70th Diamond Jubilee. The parties we had in the park were absolutely tremendous. I, you, the Mayor, Mayoresses, Deputy Mayoress, all attended, and as you say, they were given great support by the residents across Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough. It was nice, actually it was lovely to see the children getting out to play in the parks and feeling safe and secure, knowing that the parents were still around, but they could play with each other with freedom, sort of thing. So that was one of my enduring moments, watching the children come out and play together again, shall we say. Obviously, that moved on slightly insofar as was said, the death of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II after 70 years glorious service as our sovereign. It was poignant time in all our lives, I suspect. I know I, for one, when I first sang God Save the King, felt as though I was being disloyal to Her Majesty's memory. But life goes on, and that's what we did. There were a number of events that I've had opportunity to attend, and been very grateful to have been invited by various organisations and bodies across the borough. One of the first, over a year ago now, just over a year ago, was the Prayers for Peace at St Francis of Assisi Church in Bedworth for the Ukrainians who have been displaced or were just displaced due to the war. It's been a different year. It's been an excellent year insofar as there's a lot of big learning curve being a mayor, because you're not as there. You are there as a councillor, but you're also there as the first citizen of the borough, and you get an opportunity to meet many residents that you wouldn't normally meet on a day-to-day basis, because quite often you and I know you're contacted by residents who have problems. As mayor, thankfully, you have an opportunity to see the other side, but also you get an opportunity to see the volunteers who help in our borough. There are thousands of volunteers that help on a daily basis across our borough. Not recognised, not seen, but they get on with the job. They just get out there and do it. They look after people, they take people to hospital, but they continue to do it. And I saw that firstly with Warwickshire Carver, who held their AGM, and I was invited along to it. And I was humbled at the number of people there being awarded or recognised for what they did, and only recognising in the part that there's those thousands that sit behind those that gave that support to other people. I also attended, as you probably know, the Nuneaton Festival of Arts, who have a number of sections within their organisations. They're celebrating this year their 75th anniversary, so they've been going a long while, and they continue as strong as ever. The Festival of Arts do a lot of work for encouraging the youth and also the less young to produce and to enable them to become better with writing skills, with oral skills, with drama, with music, and so on and so forth. There's so much that they do to encourage the residents of our borough, and I thank them for the work that they do. That's amazing as well. I've just got to slip back slightly to my chosen charity, coming towards the end here now. Josie Lella and the team for Nuneaton's Air Ambulance group have been absolutely fantastic during the year. They've been out in the rain, in the sun, on the stalls. They've organised events. They've been down the parks. They've absolutely done anything and everything to try and ensure that we raise funds for the air ambulance and to those funds that are desperately needed. What I can state is, to date, we've achieved at least £25,000 with some donations. With some donations still to come in. And I'd just like to say thank you, Nuneaton and Bedworth folk. You've been absolutely amazing again in your generosity for our mayor's charities in this borough. Finally, we did welcome back the George Eliot Fellowship, both the borough, both the museum and back into this council chamber. And I have had the pleasure to attend a number of schools as well during the year. Reading, presenting awards, listening to some wonderful carol services. They are absolutely amazing. The pupils of Oakwood School at their Christmas carol service, just to name one, At Attleborough was wonderful, and I would urge you, if you get the opportunity, to go along and hear that when they perform. After Christmas, I was invited to go along and start the junior park runs on Sunday mornings in Riversley Park, and I'm pleased to say that they continue to grow and are encouraging the youngsters to stay active going forward. I've also this year members invited a number of groups to the parlour. We've had opportunity to do that this year. I've invited various scouts, carnivals, school groups to the parlour for a visit, which I think they enjoyed nearly as much as I did, to be honest with you. I was proud to show them what we have to offer in Nuneaton and Bedworth. It's really something to see, and I've enjoyed my year as mayor. Finally, there you go, I'm getting near the end. I would like to thank my daughter Sarah for being my mayoress this year. Your help and the support have been amazing, and I thank you for that, Sarah. That said, I shouldn't dismiss my grandson, who stepped in on one occasion when we got the Commonwealth Games coming through the borough, and he came down into Riversley Park as we saw the beacon being took through the park. So that was a nice change, but that was an opportunity as well. Again, you mentioned seeing all the people out and about. There were thousands of people in the park, and we were there to be able to encourage people to take up with the Commonwealth Games, you know, the sport and for athletics and whatever sports they should take going forward. But that was fantastic watching them out. However, and thankfully, when Sarah's been unavailable to work due to her work schedules, I had the opportunity, as has been indicated, as a backup in the form of the leader of the council. Both as a mayoral consort in some respect, but also on many occasions has been very helpful as my driver. And Chris, I thank you for that service that you've given me. Finally, I would like to say thank you to everyone for affording me this fantastic opportunity. It's been a very memorable year, one which I shall never forget, and an honour to have been the Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth for this wonderful year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. We move forward on the agenda to the election of the Vice Chair, Deputy Mayor. Do I have any nominations, please, from the floor?
Mr Mayor, I am proud and so pleased to nominate my fellow ward councillor, Brian Hammersley, as Vice Chair, styled as the Deputy Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coventry-Morton. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Morton.
Yes, I'm more than happy to second my fellow councillor's nomination.
I thank you for that. Do I have any other nominations for... Thank you. Councillor Shires.
First, let me congratulate you on your role, and I wish you a very successful year. I would like to nominate Councillor Watkins for Deputy Chair, Vice Chair. He has been a councillor for 13 years. He's been supportive of his residents in Kingsbury and generally the residents across Nuneaton and Bedworth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shires. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Congratulations, Mr Mayor. I'm more than happy to second that proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. We're now down to take a vote. Will I have votes for, in favour of, in the first instance, Councillor Brian Hammersley? Thank you. And votes for Councillor Watkins, please. Thank you. In which case, Councillor Hammersley, you are so elected Vice Chairman of this Council, style to be Deputy Mayor. If you'd like to come forward.
Councillor Hammersley, are you willing to sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office?
I, Brian Hammersley, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. There we go. I will get used to this over a couple of years, I'm sure. Thank you. I hope I will be able to fulfil my Deputy Mayor duties as well as my outgoing Deputy Mayor, now Mayor Martin Walsh. Thank you.
Moving forward, item 5, apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Neil Phillips. Do we have apologies from anybody else? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There are apologies from Councillor Hartshorn.
That noted, thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting dated the 19th of April are printed in the addendum on page 2. Can I move that these are a true and accurate record thereof? Can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And a seconder? Councillor Markham. I thank you. Sorry, Councillor Condacor, you wish to speak?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and congratulations, you're now my 13th Mayor. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but we'll see how that turns out. But I do want to bring up 2 points about the minutes. Firstly, at the last meeting, I objected to the minutes of the 13th of February meeting, and that's not been recorded in these minutes. And then at the last meeting, if you look at page 18, there's a bit about the grab bag issue, which I was not allowed to speak at the meeting, but the grab bag was actually on council land. It wasn't removed till the 27th of April, and I will not accept any minutes which calls me a failing Councillor Kandaka. I don't think that's appropriate for the minutes. So I'll be voting against these, and I hope the council can correct the minutes that I were actually voted against the previous minutes. Thank you.
We shall now take a vote on those minutes as they are true and accurate record thereof. Indeed. I shall sign those off then. Thank you. Abstentions? Yes, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Shires. Sorry, two abstentions. Thank you. I ask for abstentions. I ask for... I think I did. I think our Chief Executive had an opportunity to take the vote. Noted. Moving forward, item 7, declarations of interest. Do we have any other declarations of interest that are not recorded in the schedule that are appropriate to this meeting? Okay, thank you very much. Item 8, announcements. We have an announcement from the leader of the party, Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is Director Richardson's last full council meeting before he departs this authority. So I think it would be remiss of us not to note that and actually thank him for the service he has given. I'm reliably informed just 2 months short of 20 years service by the time you depart, unless you wish to correct the record, Mr. Richardson. That's what I've been informed. You have provided guidance and assurance and assistance to councillors of all colours and none, and I'm sure you have found it entertaining at parts, but you have never ever shown that, which is a testament to the fact that you've managed to maintain that stony face throughout all the difficulties, trials and tribulations that may have befallen this chamber over those many years. And I wish you the very best, whatever you may choose to do after you leave this authority. But I know that you will continue to take an active interest in the affairs of Nuneaton and Bedworth. So wish you all the best, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Councillors, and I will endorse that accordingly. I have my announcement to make myself, which is regards to my chosen charity for this coming year. My wife and I were blessed with 3 wonderful boys, who in turn has given us 5 wonderful grandchildren, of which we are very pleased and proud to have. Very fortunate. Unfortunately, not all parents are in the same position. Unfortunately, some have issues with their children, and those issues can be life-threatening, and it's very hard for those parents and those children. So my adopted charity for this year is Zoe's Place. I would like to ask Mr. Ian Carr to come forward and make a short presentation for those who are not aware of Zoe's Place, but certainly to enlighten you to what they can offer and what they do. I thank you, Ian.
I'm learning from you lot, yeah. Firstly, thank you for welcoming me. Secondly, thank you to Councillor Walsh for nominating Zoe's Place as the chosen charity for his civic appeal. A great honour, a genuine pleasure, and we're delighted as a local charity to be nominated. And for me to tell you just a little bit about Zoe's Place. This could be a 45-minute presentation, but I can do a shortened version, so it'll be 4 to 5 minutes. And that's mainly because there's a video at the end that I think tells the story of Zoe's Place far better than any bald 44-year-old man can. It really will show you what we're all about. So, just to very quickly go through these, if there's any points that I make that you want more elaborate answers to, we are in the reception afterwards. So if you do want to speak a little bit more about where your money would be going, we're more than happy with my colleague Harman to speak to you. So Zoe's Place offers one-to-one care for babies aged 0 to 5 with life-limiting or life-threatening conditions. It offers end-of-life and palliative care, but the majority of our services, thankfully, are respite care. So parents, the moment that their child is born, become a parent and a carer. It's as simple as that. So that full-time job as of a parent suddenly becomes a carer as well. So what we offer for the majority of the time is a chance for them to have a break and for the child to develop as best that we possibly can. We're the only baby-specific hospices in the country. There are sites in Liverpool, Middlesbrough and Coventry. I did have a look today because it's Nuneaton and Bedworth. We are officially in Nuneaton and Bedworth. So if that makes you give an extra quid, then we're game, okay? But we're known as the Coventry Hospice. Just for any reassurance, that whilst we are one trust with 3 sites, any money that is raised as part of the civic appeal will come to Coventry. We do have separate bank accounts that all feed into the trust, okay? We work together closely with the other hospices, but the services that we provide, a vast majority of the cases are for Coventry and Warwickshire children and families. What it allows us to do by being the only baby hospice is provide specialist care, and we can offer infancy expertise through our nurses who all specialise in young babies, and it allows us to really specialise the services that we provide. So the Coventry Hospice itself was opened in 2011. It's near Holbrooks, and it's purpose-built, it's bright, it's airy. I'm sure Councillor Walsh and Sandra will tell you it is not what you might expect from a baby hospice. It's an enjoyable place to work. Our offices are there. We hear laughter, sometimes hear crying, but in a way that's a good sign. The nurses are there, the care team are there, and they look after the children, and it's a one-to-one care service minimum that we provide. It's a positive atmosphere, and children can thrive with that one-to-one care that we provide. So our facilities include brand new sensory room and soft play where children can go to relax, a beautiful sensory and memorial garden, which is that picture there, a chance for if parents do lose a loved one, they can come to the memorial garden and remember their child. There's a hydrotherapy bathroom. We have 6 cot rooms, so we provide overnight stays as well, and a play garden at the front with toys and swings and various things like that, which again helps the care team allow to care for the children that we welcome to Zoe's Place. The Starlight Suite it's our most privileged part of our work is to be part of an end-of-life care. It is a parent's choice should they be losing a loved one or have lost a loved one to use the Starlight Suite. It's a specialised room, and it's attached to our parent suite where we have facilities for parents to stay overnight, including a bathroom, television, pull-out bed, a microwave, enough for it to feel a little bit like home. Some people choose to use it, other people don't. It's a completely personal choice, but we can understand absolutely why you would go to Zoe's Place for this, because we can offer specialist support. We can take a lot of the burden off what is probably the most unimaginable and difficult situation that family will ever go through. It gives them a chance to say goodbye, and it gives them a chance to take a little bit of pressure off during this very, very difficult time. So as I said before, the children stay for day or overnight. We have a specialised minibus, enables us to have day trips. And as you can see there, the children benefit greatly and grow and can heighten their senses and use the hydrotherapy bath music therapy, rebound therapy and animal therapy, all of which is given to Zoe's. Some of it costs, and again, if you're wondering where your money might go, it helps provide all of these services that we welcome into Zoe's place. So fundraising wise, it costs approximately £3,000 to run the hospice just for one day. Just to very quickly point out where we've been as an organisation, we were 24/7 for all the years that we were open before. Because of COVID, we had to make cutbacks, and so therefore we went back to about 3 days and 2 nights a week, just straight after COVID. Our aim is to get back to 24/7. That allows us to welcome more children in for more time, which I'm sure you'll all agree is absolutely what we all want. Each hospice needs to raise 1.4 million each year to keep it running, and we have very little government support. That's not to say we're not very grateful for that government support. Need to maybe reword that. The NHS do provide a grant, but it's very much, it's about 90% needs to be fundraised, and that's my role. So I didn't say who I was. I'm Ian Carve, head of fundraising, so I'm always looking at that figure. Grants and incredible generosity of our supporters like yourselves, and we really look forward to working with you guys for the upcoming year. So how you can help: volunteer, take up a challenge event, we've got plenty of those, support the appeal as much as you can. We've got a team of great fundraisers, volunteers, who are honestly chomping at the bit to help you guys to achieve what we all want to achieve, and that's to maximise the amounts of funds that we raise throughout the year. Follow our social media, share our posts, engage with us, do what you can. We will help you every step of the way. Okay, so this is the video, and as I say, if there's any questions that come from either the video or my presentation, we'll be more than happy to talk to any of you. Okay.
So Alice is 2.5 years old. She was born a perfect little child.
Things were okay. She was first here, she was happy, everything was happening as it was supposed to. We had no clue at all that there were any problems. And then one day we were at home, she was 4.5 months old, and I was at home on my own with her, and she suddenly had a seizure.
You'd pick her up and she'd be like a rag doll. She had no, she wouldn't be able to move really. She was that lifeless.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, some days, her eyes were just shut, and then when she opened them, the eyes were rolling in the back of her head. It was absolutely awful.
And obviously we thought, well, she can't be right. How can she have gone from this perfect child to how she is? So they said that she's got this genetic problem, that she won't be able to do all of the things that we've talked about, and that she probably won't make it out of childhood.
There's not a moment when we don't have her in our sights.
It's difficult to sleep at all, because even if she does have a period where she sleeps, we have to turn her because she's not capable of turning herself, so we do that every few hours. And then we're always concerned that every time she shuffles, we're checking, is it a seizure? Has she pulled a tube out? Is she choking? I think the hardest thing is coming to terms with the fact that we don't know how long she's going to be here for, and knowing that you're going to attend your own child's funeral. It's
heartbreaking. The fact that she'll never tell you or say to you that she loves you, or you see other kids in shops and things, and they run up to your mum and they tug on her side and ask her to, they want to buy this, and you just turn around and you just think to yourself, oh my gosh, life was that simple, you know what I mean? Just to have something like that would be lovely.
And if we celebrate a birthday or Christmas, we think, is this going to be is this going to happen again? And so dealing with that is very difficult. We support each other 100%, but I can't pretend that it's easy, because it isn't.
So I think Elsa was about 8 months old, and it was somebody in her team who said that there was an opportunity for her to go to a hospice, that she would have respite care. And at first, obviously, you hear the word hospice, and you think absolutely not. And you hear someone telling you that potentially that means you need help with your child, and you think absolutely not. But I agreed to head over there and just to talk to everyone and have a look. And I was instantly surprised. Everyone was just so lovely and so approachable, and it's such a warm, happy place.
It's a lifeline.
It is a lifeline.
It's a lifeline.
100%.
A couple of nights off, even a night off, or the afternoon off, the day off. It's it's a concept just to switch off.
And I think for Elsa, having a place to go where she's given this incredible care. I mean,
God, yeah.
not only are they all medically qualified, but they're just the most caring people. And she has the best time there. She gets to do all these activities that otherwise just wouldn't be open to her. And she gets to experience things that, again, without it wouldn't be an option. Because she is looked after just so impeccably, it means we can actually have some time to just relax. And then after that short period of time, she could be just there for 24 hours, but it's enough for you to have some time to rest, and then you can be there for her 100% again, which is obviously the most important thing.
Thank you, Ian, for that presentation. We shall move forward. Item number 9 on the agenda, composition and membership of committees and the appropriate outside bodies for 2023 to 2024. I call upon the Leader of the Council, Councillor Wilson. Do you wish to report on the Cabinet appointments as set out on page 30 of the addendum?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And it was... I'm thrilled at the charity that you've chosen for this year, and I know it will be a cause which will be supported by many people throughout the borough, and indeed by as many councillors in this chamber as possible, because those are the very people that we are actually elected to represent, the most vulnerable and needy in our society. So congratulations, and I look forward to working with you on your appeal, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to the formal business of the night, Mr. Mayor, agenda item 9A are appointments to the Cabinet. These are appointments by myself as Leader of the Council, and the report is for noting. Members will note that there are no changes to the Cabinet, so just to go over it, I will remain as Leader and Portfolio Holder for Business and Regeneration. Councillor Golby will remain as Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Housing and Communities. Councillor Croft will remain at Finance and Corporate. Councillor Sue Markham will remain at Public Services. Councillor Richard Smith will remain at Planning and Regulation. And Councillor Julian Gutteridge will remain at Health and Environment. And also printed on the agenda are the Cabinet supports, Mr. Mayor, and I move that they be noted.
I thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Yeah, I second the report and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Markham. Do I have any other speaker from the Council? In which case that is noted. Do we vote, please, for that motion? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item 9B, composition of committees and OSPs. Councillor Wilson, call upon you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendations as printed at 9B, which is the composition of the committees and overview and scrutiny panels. It's worth pointing out, Mr. Mayor, that these are worked out in accordance with the statutory proportionality regulations for each of the political parties. I have not had a hand in any of these. They remain the same as before, and when the recommendations come out from officers as to what the numbers work out at, I just move them for council to deliberate. I have no hand in them, Mr. Mayor, but I move them as printed.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do we have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second that and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Madge. Any other speakers, please? Any other councillors to speak? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm always concerned about the appeals panel because it never actually meets. It hasn't met for 2 or 3 years, and it seems to be a place where people get shoved to actually use up their allocation of places. I'm also concerned about the size of the planning committee, and yet again I will ask, can we have a representation of all the parties on the planning committee like we did in the days of Labour? We had BNP, Lib Dems, whatever party you're in, even if there's only one of you, you had a seat on planning. It was that fair in the day. And Councillor Wilson does mention that things are done proportionally, but there's actually more than one solution, because the rules just say the whole numbers effectively have to be within rounding errors. The rounding is a political decision, and the size of the committees is a political decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Condacor. As per Leader of the Council, Councillor Wilson stated that the numbers and the breakdown of the membership of the committees is a job for the officers and not a political job, in which case the numbers as per printed on page 31 are as stands. Thank you. Councillor Wilson. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could I recommend that we just move to the vote on this? Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Councillor Condacor knows full well that not every single political party has had a seat at any one time on the planning committee. The results of these working outs are based on the number of councillors each political party holds. The solution is simple, Mr Mayor, that if you want more seats on committees, you get more councillors elected. That is how you make 2 + 2 make 4. You can't make 2 + 2 make 3. That is the reality of the situation. You can't have each and every single party having a seat on each and every single committee. That would then end up being unproportionate, Mr Mayor. And in relation to the Appeals Committee, I actually think it's a great success that it hasn't met last year, because that would mean that we are not getting the processes right when we are disciplining any potential disciplinaries of members of staff. That is their final route of appeal if the recommendation is a sanction or indeed dismissal from their position as an officer of this council. That means that if there has been anything, it has been dealt with appropriately by the officers according to their responsibilities. And I think it actually shows that the process and the officers are doing their job properly. Otherwise, we would have had umpteen appeals hearings being met, and that in itself would have given cause for concern if we were having so many appeals hearings, if we were dismissing that many members of staff. So Councillor Condacor can't have it both ways. He wants us to protect staff, as he has quite rightly said in previous council meetings, but then we have the check and balance with the Appeals Committee, and if it hasn't met, that means that there has been no need, because they have either accepted their sanction or the officers have got it right. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I thank you, Councillor Wilson. We'll take this to the vote then, please. All those in favour as per listed in the agenda? Thank you. Any votes against? Thank you. And abstentions? No. We have that recorded. Thank you. That's passed. Thank you very much. We then have item 9C, which is the actual composition of the committees and the OSPs. I ask Councillor Wilson to move that as a recommendation. Page 32 and 33 on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I think there's a theme emerging here that I'm proposing all of the items on the agenda paper from here on in. Yes, having passed the numbers, Mr Mayor, in the last agenda item, we now have to appoint councillors to the respective committees, and I believe this has been through all the respective parties for their nominations for their positions, so I move the report as printed, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Yes, I'm happy to second Councillor Wilson's proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Morton. Do we have any other member of the council wishes to speak on this matter? In which case we'll go to a vote. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? 1. And any abstentions? 1. That's carried. Thank you. Item 9D, representation on outside bodies. I call upon Councillor Wilson as leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the report as printed in the addendum.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Harper. Thank you very much indeed. Do I have any other councillors requiring to speak? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarity, I assume we're agreeing Appendix B and Appendix A, or Schedule B, I should say. And on Schedule B, it's got Biodiversity Champion. As someone who's passionate about the environment, I really would like to take that role on myself, or have someone equally engaged in the environment doing it. I don't think we've actually actively done much biodiversity championship for many, many years in this council, so I do ask the council has another look at that. And the Green Group wasn't actually asked for nominations for any of these positions. So that's on page 39, if it helps, Mr. Mayor.
I think we've jumped the gun slightly, Councillor Condacor.
So it was unclear as to, on here, what matters.
It is, okay. In which case, sorry, yes. Sorry, could you just repeat what you said, your recommendation? Sorry.
I was just asking for nominations for myself to be the biodiversity champion if anyone wants to support me in doing so. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor. Yes. In which case, we'll take a vote on that one, please. Recommendation is that Councillor Condacor goes on to the outside as a biodiversity champion. All those in favour? 3. Those against? I thank you. That's not carried. Abstentions, sorry. We go back to the original recommendation. Substantive recommendation as being Councillor Brown being the biodiversity champion as listed. The whole thing, sorry, the whole thing. Any other comments? No? Can we take a vote on that, please, as per printed in the schedule? All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? 2. And abstentions? No abstentions, that's carried as per the schedule. So we move forward to item number 10. Oh, sorry, E. What do we got? Oh, sorry, appointment of co-opted members. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move the recommendations with an amendment to that which is printed, and that the amendment is that a recruitment exercise be undertaken for the remaining vacancies. I note that I'm grateful to see that our one remaining co-opted member is with us tonight, but there are vacancies on 2 of the other scrutiny panels and also for audit and standards. So if we could conduct a recruitment exercise to try and bring some external expertise in, that would be helpful, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second that.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Condacor, you wish to speak?
Well, it's actually a point of clarification. What page on the addendum is this proposal on? Because I'm having trouble finding it.
Can you see that? Yeah? Yes? 35. Appointment of co-opted members. We have Mrs Ross down for the Finance and Public Services. As per Councillor Wilson's recommendation, I think we take on board the suggestion that we advertise for and source potentially other co-opting members for the vacant posts. We happy to go with that resolution? All those in favour? I think we'll take that as unanimous. Thank you very much. Right. Item 10, appointment of the monitoring officer. Please move the council to page 43 of the addendum. Yeah, I'd like to propose this. Oh, do we have a proposal for this? Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move the recommendation as set out at paragraph 2.1 of the report in the addendum. As I mentioned earlier in my announcement, Mr Mayor, Mr Richardson, who is the current monitoring officer, is leaving this authority, so we are required to have a monitoring officer by law. They are one of the 3 statutory officers which we must have, and they cannot be one and the same person. They must be 3 separate people, so we need to appoint another one. So from the date of Mr Richardson's departure, the report sets out and the appointment of his replacement, Mr Mayor.
I thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Downs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second that and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Do I have any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I had a lot of problems over the last few months, and I'd like to move an amendment that actually the new monitoring officer takes the role on the 16th of June, so that actually we have a 2-week handover effectively, and the new monitoring officer's in place 2 weeks earlier. I think that'd be more useful for what's going to go on in the next few months, and I don't see any problem with actually changing the monitoring officer 2 weeks, so that actually more of an overlap, and the transition is actually change the monitoring officer 16th of June, and then Mr Richardson's got 2 weeks to wind down and tidy up the few things in his in-tray, which he's probably still got to deal with. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor. In which case I shall take a vote on the recommendation. Sorry, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I won't be supporting the amendment from Councillor Condacor. There is an existing deputy monitoring officer who is one and the same person who is nominated to be the new monitoring officer. So one would presume that she already knows what she is doing because she's been standing in whenever Mr Richardson has been absent for holiday, sickness, whatever he might have had cause to be absent from the authority for. And also, I would have thought that Councillor Condacor would have wanted to ensure value for money, and I'm sure Mr Richardson will take this in the spirit it's intended, but if we have him up until the last possible minute, we should pay, and are paying him up to the last possible minute until he departs, then we should be making sure we get the most out of him that we can and get the best bang for our buck. Sorry, Phil. I believe in actually making sure that we get the most bang for our buck, and also everyone who is involved in this process is as experienced as necessary. So the amendment, in my view, Mr Mayor, is redundant.
I thank you, Councillor Wilson. I believe we still need to take a vote. I believe we still need to take a vote for the amendment as stated by Councillor Condacor. Those in favour of? Those against? That is not carried. Thank you. I go back to the original recommendation. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? 2. That is carried. Item 11, which is set out on page 46 onwards. Responsibilities. Ask Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I believe I need to move these in 2 separate parts under item 11. The first one being 11A, which is the scheme of delegation from council, excluding those functions which are reserved to the executive. So I move those as printed in the addendum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I have a seconder on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Markham. Any other speaker? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. These papers weren't provided to us a week before the meeting, and they're massive, and I'm sure a lot of it is actually quite technical, but we haven't got track changes, so we've been asked to approve these ginormous list of delegations, and I'm sure almost all of it is exactly the same as the previous list. So it would be useful if the leader could actually identify any changes that have happened so we know what we're actually voting for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Condacor. Councillor Wilson, are you aware of any changes that might be relevant?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is not the job of the leader of the council to act as Microsoft Word track changing officer, and Councillor Condacor is perfectly capable of reading the papers himself and comparing them to last year's. But the main changes, it has to be said, Mr. Mayor, unless they are changing committee, which I don't believe any of them are, there are changes based on personnel with the restructure of the council. So we have moved from the director positions to the strategic directors and assistant directors, and the powers have simply been mapped and matched to the new strategic directors and assistant directors' areas of responsibility. And the areas of responsibility were passed at a previous council, which Councillor Condacor was present for and voted on, so he should be fully aware of where those powers and responsibilities are going. Yet again, it's another redundant point, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Condacor, you wish to come in?
Thank you. I asked because I didn't know if anything had changed. I'm reassured by your answer, but I don't think I should be attacked for asking what things have changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Condacor. In which case, we'll take a vote on that. We're all happy to approve that, agree that? In favour thereof? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move forward to 10B, page 107. Ask Councillor Wilson likewise, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is the last agenda item, I'm sure, that members and guests will be pleased to know. And this is the delegation of functions which are executive functions, either to the respective officers or to the respective cabinet members. So it is as printed in the agenda, and there have been no changes to cabinet holder responsibilities. The portfolio holder responsibilities have remained exactly the same as the past 2 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Markham. Do any other member wish to speak? No? In which case, take a vote on that. Please, all in favour? I take that as being unanimous. I thank you. This concludes the formal part of the meeting. I appreciate your attendance. I thank you.